Hello, good day everyone. Once again, I'm Juriel Tumapon. For our question number 1, what is the importance of plant taxonomy? First of all, plant taxonomy is a science of classifying and naming plants, and a branch of what is known as systematics, which is science of determining how different biological organisms are related to each one of another. So the importance of the plant taxonomy is to help us determine or give us an idea to study of its traits present in the plants and animals. It is also a study of the order of the physical development, and it is also teaches us an idea about the fauna and flora. Then for our question number 2, why is nomenclature of plants necessary? Nomenclature is devising or choosing of the names of the things, especially about in science or other discipline. It is important for us to study or to learn nomenclature of plants because it gives us an idea of what that plants belong, and easy for us to determine if what species or type it is on that plant. And it is easy for us to search in the internet if we made that plants with names and classifications, because there are so many types and species of plants now, and some of them are much more look alike. Nomenclature was also important for reproducibility, documentation, and prediction.
Good day everyone, I'm Aira Llanes and I will be answering the question number 3. So give the definition of the following terms. Kingdom. Kingdom is the highest level in classification of animal and plant kingdom. Division. The number of groups in this taxon is not fixed. It depends on the classification system, based on similar characteristics observed and a few elements or organs. Dominance of sporophyte to gametophyte, presence of ovule, seed and formation, and several other morphological and anatomical characteristics. Those are hereditary characteristics and will continue to exist from generation to generation. And class, the number of groups in the taxon is also not fixed, depending on the classification system. Separation is based on important basic differences that exist between the groups. Order. Separation is based on a more convincing genetic relationship which earlier had been detected at the class and division level. Family. Based on more characteristic compared to order, class, and division, the morphological characteristic of reproductive organs, inflorescence, ovary position, placentation, number of pistils and carpels, types of ovule, and andreusin. Genus. Genus involves more similar characteristics including a closer family relationship, but they do not cross. If a hybrid cross does occur, the offspring are normally infertile or will not survive. Phylogenetically, new genus arises and separates from the same parental origin.
Good day everyone, and I'm Marie Danica Cimafranca. So for number 4, it was stated to give my own words and explain the different taxonomic classification systems. Firstly, the artificial system. So classification based on Google, it is the arrangement of organisms based on different characters in order to study them easily. So in science, classifying things is essential as it can be confusing to understand a certain organism directly, learning how they worked and each of their characteristics. Artificial system of classification was based on the presence or absence of a few morphological or vegetative characteristics that were used for grouping of organisms or differentiating one group of an organism from another. Characters like number and position of stamens, style, and etc. were taken into consideration. So from what I understood, artificial system refers to classifying a group of organisms by differentiating their characteristics done by man. This includes classification based on their style, uses, or habitat. So the first artificial system of classification was given by Theophrastus, which were done on the basis of habitat. It was considered as a non-phylogenetic system, meaning the classification does not depend on phylogenetic relations with their ancestors. Phylogenetic is the study of evolutionary relationships among biological entities, such as species, individuals, or genes. An example would be how Theophrastus done this type of system of classification on the basis of habitat, in which he grouped plants into 4 categories: the herbs, the undershrubs, the shrubs, and the trees. Other example of artificial system was given by Aristotle for animals, as he grouped animals into 2 groups. First was Anima, or invertebrate organisms with the absence of blood, and the second was Enaima, or vertebrates with the presence of red blood. It can be observed how these organisms are being classified, as the presence of one organism characteristics can be an absence to the other organism, and vice versa. This differs to a specific group of organisms like the invertebrates and vertebrates mentioned in the second example. Second classification system would be the mechanical system. Classifications at this period was based on one or a few chosen characteristics, based on the habit as well as organs of fructification, such as position, locule, number, and seed number. Fructification is the process of growing fruit, or simply means to multiply, procreate, or reproduce. In this classification system, it is quite similar as to the first system mentioned. It was still based on an organism's habitats and characteristics. The only difference would be how it classifies on organisms as mechanical system based only on one or few chosen characteristics. So it classifies organisms based on one or a few selected characteristics, like for example, classifying based solely on their position, seed number, and other specified characteristics. Natural system is one which reflects the evolutionary relationships of the organisms. Like for example, all the members of a category, like a family, order, or etc., are known to be monophyletic, meaning they share a common ancestor. In this system of classification, it were based on the overall morphological or external resemblances of an organism, so specifically plants. So for the word morphological, an example would be an organism's cytology or cell structure, or embryology and anatomy. These are all considered natural characteristics found in an organism. Natural system is where organisms are classified based on their particular natural characteristics as a whole, so it can be based on many characteristics as possible of an organism. The fourth and last but not the least classification system is the phylogenetic system. This system of classification was introduced by Engler and Pruntil. It shows how entities have evolved over time, based on the overall characteristics known to that time, and emphasis were laid down to depict the phylogenetic or evolutionary relationship of plants. So again, phylogenetic is the study of evolutionary relationships among biological entities, often species, individuals, or genes, which may be referred to as taxa. It is important because it enriches our understanding of how genes, genomes, and species evolved. So in this classification system, it was still based on many characteristics of an organism, but with its evolutionary interpretations. So classifying based also to an organism's evolutionary history that are genetically related. An example of this would be ancestor species and descendant species, all classified not just based on their overall characteristics, but also to their evolutionary relationships. That is all for item number 4. Now on to the next item, item number 5.
So, number 5 question. Enumerate and discuss the different taxonomic characteristics. So, number 1 is morphology, plant growth habit, leaf arrangement and shape, flower and fruit characteristics. Second is anatomy, secondary xylem characteristics, epidermis, including trichomes and stomata. The third one is palynology, pollen characteristic including size, shape, aperture, and exene sculpture. And the fourth one is cytology, the chromosome number, structure, and habit. And number 5 is chemical and molecular, alkaloid, phenolic, and amino acids content, protein, enzyme, and DNA.